Anyway, you're all hot and bothered about the 49ers for God only knows what reason.
Well, there are a lot of different reasons, Ray.
There's only one reason.
What is that reason?
You're bored.
But, I mean, in this period where you're trying to not be bored and you're looking for things to kind of grab onto, I think John Lynch had a lot of good things to say. He went out, Trey Lance is back throwing. I think that's a big deal. Doesn't see a limp, John Lynch said, even though he said, obviously he's not 100%, but from where he sits, he's got a great seat. And he's looking outside and he's seeing everything that Trey Lance is doing. And it's very early, but looking good. On the other side of things, Purdy is checking in with their doctor later this week to see if they'll be ready for surgery next week. So I don't know. Look, everything that they're saying all the right things in terms of the inflammation and checking to make sure it goes down. But until they actually open this up and get on in there and see what's going on with this UCL, I think it's still worrisome. So now you're looking at what's today. Today is the last day of February. They're saying they check in and they're hoping to have the surgery next week, and they don't know if they will. So I think at least if you're a Niners fan, you can be happy about one of the quarterbacks making their way back, and hopefully things go well for Brock Purdy later this week and he's able to have the surgery next week. And that list, Ray, on top of all this, you got your two young QBs on rookie deals, and the list of possible third stringers continues to grow. And I know that you are excited to hear this list. Would you like to hear the list?
How much would it cost me to prevent you from reading it?
I don't think you got it because I really want to read this list off. So everybody is excited. I woke up this morning. Marcus Mariota released.
No, you didn't wake up and thinking that. I guarantee you that was not the first thing on your mind.
I woke up and saw he was released and saw a bunch of Niner fans saying, Marcus Mariota.
You're the same lunatic who said you can't wait to see the combine.
I still can't wait to see the combine.
I don't believe you for a moment.
Well, and based on some of your thoughts and theories, you're giving me more of a reason to see the combine. So this is...
No, there's only one reason for you to watch the combine, is if your wife leaves you. I'm just telling you, if that's on,
if she goes to
and
Target,
she walks in the room, she's going to say, give me the car keys and show me where the suitcases are.
If she goes to Target, it'll buy me some time to watch some 40 times. That's good stuff right there. That's good stuff.
I can't tell you how ashamed the entire audience is of you.
Not at all. I won't be alone, Ray.
Anyway.
Okay, here's your
you'll
list.
be alone soon enough.
That's
trust
right.
me. Anyway, read your list.
Marcus Mariota, Teddy Bridgewater, Jacoby Brissett, Taylor Heineke, Cooper Rush, Gardner Minshew, Case Keenum, Andy Dalton, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Carson Wentz. Now, out of that list, let's start here. Who would be okay with being a QB3?
None of them.
I think that Jacoby Brissett would be. I think that Case Keenum would be, and probably Cooper Rush, and maybe Andy Dalton. But I don't know anyone else. Now, Sam Darnold might not want to be, but Sam Darnold might not have a choice.
Oh, no. Whatever you're getting in that market is somebody who has failed multiple times or has not gotten any opportunities because nobody believes in them.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine a scenario in which Kyle Shanahan looks at any of them and says, yeah, that's the difference maker we want.
Well, no. And Grandy made a good point when we were talking earlier.
See, now the combine's one thing, but then saying that he's got a good point is...
Because if you did get a difference maker or where is that line in this list? I think the Niners are struggling with the line of a QB that wants to be a QB3, but you would imagine would perform better than Josh Johnson if called upon. But if you get somebody too good, are you creeping into the realm of do they not trust Trey Lance? I think that's the most intriguing part of this situation that the Niners are in. And Ray, you gave a good idea. Well,
no,
look,
I didn't.
If you're going to give an opportunity to one of these QBs, and these QBs that most of them don't want to be QB3 anyway, you struck lightning once in the draft, later in the rounds, a.k.a. the last pick of the draft, and Brock Purdy. Do you go after one of these guys, or do you just add on to your list of young QBs where you are paying a rookie deal and just grab somebody later in the draft? I'm just throwing a name out there that would be later, available a little bit later, in a Stetson Bennett or somebody like that. Or do you get one of these QBs who they don't really want to be a 2 because they got a little bit too much pride for that, but they don't really want to be a 3. They got a little too much pride for that, but unfortunately, those are the breaks. So I think there are so many ways that the Niners could look at it. Me personally, you made a good point, Ray, in looking for another rookie, but I think that because of what happened last year, and again, we are a society that can be very reactive instead of proactive, I think that the Niners react to what happened last year and they go with the vet.
See, I think because they have shown time and again that they have a non-quarterback dependent offense, that rather than take a veteran who either they don't believe in or doesn't believe in being a 3, they might go with a draft choice, even if it's a 5. It's not because, hey, we found Brock Purdy, we can find somebody else,
right?
But because you're talking about a third-string quarterback, and what do you want to pay for a third-string quarterback? You want to pay the bare minimum,
right?
You'd like to make him play for free if you could. So I'm not ruling that out simply because the 49ers, Brock Purdy didn't make them a great team down the stretch. They were already that because they are McCaffrey-centric.
Right.
They do not live and die on throwing the ball deep. And frankly, the one guy who can throw deep has almost not played at all. And Purdy's arm is not considered a great deep arm.
No.
So they don't need a bomber. They also don't need somebody who's going to be unhappy, and they don't need somebody they're going to have to pay $10 million to if they can get away with paying somebody $900,000. So I'm not convinced that they have to go off that list at all. I mean, that list is really only an emergency list anyway. And frankly, if their luck is so poor that Purdy can't go and Lance is either awful or he gets hurt, then it means that God has told them you're not winning a Super Bowl. And I would not ignore a deity who can destroy you one quarterback at a time.
Well, and I think that's the funniest thing about all of this. Everybody has said, okay, well, it was just bad luck for the Niners this year, going through 3 quarterbacks, 2 in 1 game. It was just bad luck. But all of those same people are very invested in the fact that, well, you do need to make sure that you got a good QB3. They're the same people that are talking about Marcus Mariota. So which is it? If you truly believe, I know you need something in case of an emergency, but I don't know how many QBs got to QB or how many teams got to QB3 this year. I know obviously the Dolphins and maybe 5 teams got to QB3, a handful. I don't think it's more than 5.
I think it's more than that.
More than
I don't
5.
have the number in front of me, but I think it's more than 5.
I would say, well, the Dolphins, the Niners, the Saints.
Commanders.
That's 4 already.
Panthers. I don't think the Saints. I don't think Houston. I don't want to go through all of them, but I think it's more than 5. It was a more significant number last year than in many years past.
Sure. So because of that, I guess it doesn't matter. Or I guess you do have to look at the QB3 position a little bit differently because this time last year, nobody's talking about QB3, Ray. Nobody's talking about it.
No, but these guys poured through 4 of them.
I know that.
And the lesson here goes back to when they re-signed Jimmy Garoppolo. And what that said was, we need a reliable backup because we don't know what Trey Lance is. Well, they still don't know what he is, which is why all of a sudden now there's talk about, well, who's the third quarterback going to be? And the idea that John Lynch said, well, we're going to look into that. The only thing that told me was that he's doing the job that he's paid to do, which is to look into everything. I mean, off the list you read, though, I don't find any of it appealing. I mean, either he's going to be unhappy being a 3 and not dressing a lot of time, or he's going to be unhappy with the fact that they're going to offer him as little money as possible. And there are other teams that have quarterback needs, for at least a 2. Because I don't see that you're going to sign anybody off that list and say, we're going to put you ahead of Purdy or Lance, unless Purdy can't go at all. And they won't know that till they get into his elbow. And they don't know when that's going to be.
Well, and they
don't have to sign a quarterback now anyway, because most of those guys are still going to be out.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say.
In August.
Yeah, because you can wait to see what happens when you get in there with Brock Purdy, because none of these guys, maybe some of them, but anybody that is gone by the time you're ready to look at them, you probably weren't going to sign anyway. I think right off the top, Gardner Minshew is probably not a guy that they're going to pick up. He's younger. He's shown a little bit of promise. I don't see him saying, okay, I'll be QB3. Then you have the Andy Daltons of the world or the Jacoby Brissetts of the world who are just older and maybe they're okay with it. Now, Andy Dalton played just last year and so did Jacoby Brissett, but it's more about where they feel they are. I know a Baker Mayfield is a no-go. That's a non-starter. We don't even need to, I don't think about that. The only thing, Ray, is if you are a QB looking, would you view the Niners QB3 position differently because of what they have? An unproven guy who's coming back from injury and a more proven but still somewhat unproven guy who's about to go into surgery? Do you look at that differently and think the same thing that Jimmy Garoppolo thought last season? I mean, there's a good chance I'm going to get some time here. If they are the best number 3 option if you are a number 3 QB, or if you think you're a number 2 and you want to work your way up, because you have 2 QBs right now that are not, if the game was tomorrow, and obviously it's not, they can't do anything right now. Trey Lance is just coming back and he's dropping back. He's throwing the football. He just started throwing the football. But do you view the Niners QB3 position differently if you're one of these guys than just any other QB3 position?
No. I'd rather be a 2 somewhere, because a 2 has a much better chance of playing than a 3. And really, if you're going to look that way, maybe you wait for the market to play itself out and see if anybody jumps at Jimmy Garoppolo, because I know people don't want that to turn back up again, but he was helpful to them last year, and you would only be interested in one of these guys if you knew that Purdy's arm was done for the year, if he couldn't play at all. At which point, and Garoppolo doesn't have an offer, why wouldn't you bring him back rather than any of those guys? I mean, the truth is, those guys are stretches.
Isn't Jimmy going to be more expensive than these guys?
We don't know. We have no idea. That's why Kyle Shanahan doesn't have to commit to any of this stuff right now, because who knows what the market's going to be. I mean, we know that they don't want to afford Derek Carr, and Derek Carr wants to start. We know that, Tom Brady is allegedly still available, even though he said he's not going to play anymore. And after that, who excites you? None of that list. I mean, so why not wait? Why not wait and see what the market has and let it sort itself out? And if Garoppolo is still out there, which is certainly possible, why not try to talk to him? Come play for us for 10. Come play for us for 12. Because they're still saving so much money with the other 2 guys that even a $15 million hit, is not serious. For a Super Bowl contender to have 3 quarterbacks cost $15 million total. I think as much as people didn't believe in Garoppolo coming back last year, they'll believe in it even less this time, but they're not the ones making the decision. Kyle Shanahan has already shown that he's a pragmatist. So off that list, I don't know why any of them would be preferable to Garoppolo.
No, they wouldn't. If the pricing and the money wasn't.
I mean, unless Shanahan and Garoppolo can't stand each other, in which case then that boat has sailed. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it didn't sound terribly optimistic at the end of the year for a return, but it didn't sound very optimistic the year before either. So, again, this is a position that is not absolutely vital to the 49ers' success or failure.
I think if you put it like that, though, then if there is something going on between Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo, and don't forget when Jimmy Garoppolo first came back in and it was a party when Trey Lance went out and Jimmy Garoppolo came in and he's flinging that football all over, and Jimmy Garoppolo says, yeah, it feels like when we first started, what we said, 2017, it felt like that. It wasn't a shot at Kyle Shanahan, but it wasn't not a shot. He was meant, hey, I want to open up, I want to do some things. And obviously having Christian McCaffrey helped that situation. But if there is some type of back and forth between Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo, and we know that this team isn't QB dependent, then why even deal with Jimmy Garoppolo? If you're Kyle Shanahan, I'm not saying Jimmy Garoppolo he's obviously not a bad locker room guy or anything like that, but why not just close the book and get somebody that's comparable to Jimmy because of what you just said? This offense is not QB dependent. Why deal with it?
Well, I mean, you deal with it because you're freaked out about something going wrong. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that would go wrong is that Purdy's surgery requires a lot more extensive repair than they had first thought. That's one. Mm-hmm. Two, are they satisfied with Lance yet? Do they know if he's any good? I would submit they don't.
No.
But you're still talking about a third quarterback. And if you don't get good news on Purdy and you're still not sure about Lance, if Garoppolo's still out there, Kyle Shanahan could easily, in my mind, swallow hard and bring him back one more time because he still knows the offense better than anybody else out there. And even if he's unhappy being the third option, if you have to get to the second or even the first option, he gets to start again.
Yeah. Well, and the way you're talking, Garoppolo might be closer to the second option than the third. If bringing in Garoppolo is connected to Brock Purdy's timeline not looking great.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why Kyle Shanahan is smarter than the rest of us. He's not worrying about this right now because he doesn't have to do anything on February 28th or March 28th or June 28th. He'll know when he needs to know how dire his quarterback situation is when the doctors say, well, we don't know when we can operate because his arm is still inflamed, or we got to operate, we went in, and there's more damage than we thought, in which case Purdy's off the table. And then at that point, you can do what you did last year. If Garoppolo isn't signed yet and you want to try Lance to start the season, they did that last year. And Garoppolo agreed to it. Who's to say if the market on him is not red hot or even lukewarm that he wouldn't come back again? I mean, is it ideal for anybody? No, but who cares? It's a cynical, hateful business. And you make decisions based on what gets you through today.
Yeah.
And Marcus Mariota ain't the answer to that.
If Jimmy Garoppolo did come back, and let's say the market wasn't as hot, do you think, what would that tell you about Jimmy Garoppolo? Is it simply that other teams viewed Jimmy as, and Jimmy Garoppolo fans will hate this, but other teams viewed Jimmy as just the QB1 for the Niners in a non-QB dependent offense that they believe a lot of other QBs could look similar, maybe not the same.
They might view him as too expensive because he's going to want to go, get to 25 or 30 million. Mm-hmm. And truthfully, of the list of available quarterbacks right now, Derek Carr's at 40, Wentz is at 32, Brady, who's probably not going to play, is 25, and then Mariota's 15. Garoppolo could easily price himself out of that group.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another thing that, goes into the hopper. I mean, sure, people like to think that it's an easy choice. You just fall in love with him, you give him whatever money you want, and he'll accept it. I'm not sure that's true. And if the offers for him are sufficiently lowball, the 49ers could match a lowball offer cheerfully and say, well, we've got the guy that we know won't screw this up.
Yeah. Do you think that, again, if you see that price tag drop, and I thought this while it was happening, did Brock Purdy's success affect Jimmy Garoppolo's value at all?
Who knows? We don't know what his value is because nobody's made an offer.
Yeah.
Because, it's February 28th. Your beloved combine hasn't even started yet.
I can't wait. That's when this is really going to heat up, Ray.
It may heat up for you.
It's really going to heat up after the combine.
I tell you what, if my wife is switching around channels and she happens upon the combine by accident, if she hasn't changed it within a half a second, I'm throwing a shoe through the TV. That shouldn't be on television at all. It's, it should be rated.
No, it's pretty good.
It's not. It's terrible.
And we have a lot to go over after it happens.
Wow, am I planning to call in sick?
No, you're not.
Oh, I'm so not talking about the combine. Just not at all. I will proudly say I didn't watch a minute of it. I refuse to. I don't care if players exploded.
There was a guy
who exploded?
Well, there's a guy.
I'd have heard about that.
Well, he's a DB, and he came out and said, I think he played 8 years in the league, and he came out and, he said, good luck to the combine, but I guess he was up and down for 8 years, and now he says he can just a lot of different, I guess, shots, and he was saying don't take what they're giving you in the locker rooms. He says he can barely walk now.
Yeah, because the one thing that's absolutely sure about it is as much as the NFL pays lip service to health and safety, they're interested in health. They're not interested in safety. So you can take that part to the bank instead of your beloved combine.